How's it going, everyone? Let me know if you guys can hear me. Just getting things set up. Hopefully everything is working accordingly. Set up. So how's it going, everyone? How are you guys doing tonight? Just thought I'd pop on here for a little bit and talk some crypto. I'm just letting people know that I'm doing the stream. All right. So yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, as far as crypto goes, I think this is pretty much expected where we are. As we've been talking, you know, for a while now, right, of a potential, you know, reaccumulation range, right? The range we've been looking at, right, between 10.9 in that region, right, and 12, I would say around 12.1, 12.2, somewhere around that area. Maybe around 12,000 if we just want to keep it nice and clean. And then, you know, we've been comparing it, of course, you know, to the move that we saw a few months ago, right, when we were range bound there, with lower bound down here at, say, 8,600 or so. And we've, you know, of course, we've drawn the similarities here. So, you know, the thing is, right, is we've said, we've been saying for a week or two now that, you know, this could just be, right, a reaccumulation range for Bitcoin. It might not be any more complicated than that. You know, I mean, this is one of the things we've been talking about, and also really, you know, discussing the similarities, right, between you know, this potential, or this, in hindsight, of course, it was a reaccumulation range. We identified it as a reaccumulation range, not a distribution phase. And then we saw it break out as we said, okay, if we move sideways here for a bit, we're more likely to break up. We did, and now the question, right, are we continuing to just play this trend out, you know? And it seems like there's a chance that we are. Again, if you're new to the show, I just identifying, you know, this basically the breakthrough here. And then a slow move to the top. Again, the breakthrough, and then a move to the top, a move back down. We're just following it through to see if it continues to play out. A move back down, and then we have a move back to the top, right over there, a move back to the top. Then after the moves to the top, we of course move sideways, you know, for a few days in that one and that one. So we were moving sideways for about a week at the top of the range, of course. And then, you know, we came back down, back to the top. But as we showed before, right, this move back to the top the third time broke through the last two local peaks. So first peak, second peak, the third peak came higher. First peak, second peak, third peak came higher. We came back down, back up, okay, back down, sort of ish back up. Actually, I wouldn't even call that part the back up. I would say, you know, this was down here, back up, and then we had the red candle down, red candle down. And so if this is just a compressed window, right, basically just compressing it by 2/3, right? And the reason why I say that, I mean, it's not a perfect science, of course, but if you just take a measured move from when we broke through the accumulation range to that red candle and say it's 43 days, and again, you know, show this one as 29 days. We'll say approximately 2/3. It's a few days among friends on a compressed timeline for a potential reaccumulation phase. So then this is what we said the other day. So we said, okay, it could get boring for a little while. I think for the most part, that has been true. By the way, for those of you tuning in, if you see the price at 11,484, it's just because it's the DLX, and it just shows it just shows the closing price. Of course, we know that it actually has come up a bit to 11.6, so it's doing pretty well right now. But if you take a move, right, from the bottom of this wick over here, so we had a bottom right there at the wick, and then back to the top, you know, it was the local move up, right? It was around 6%. And then here, from this wick here, we're already up above, 4 or 5% or so. So I still think there are some similarities. I think if this continues to play out, right? I mean, this is a big if, of course. But from that capitulation to when we started breaking out, that it led to the next move up, it was 40 days. So assuming the window stays compressed at the same rate from this candle here, we're looking at maybe 20, 25 days, something like that. So we'll see what happens. But if that were the case, then it would put us moving out of this range, right? So moving out of this range, maybe we go up, maybe we come back down. Moving out of the range in about 3 or 4 weeks if we continue on. And the thing is, right, is we know that we need to do this. I mean, as much as everyone hates it, right? As much as everyone hates moving sideways, for a long period of time because people are just excited about the markets. You're in crypto because you like the volatility to some degree. You have a risk appetite that you can't always find elsewhere, though. Equities are certainly giving crypto a run for their money right now. And so the thing is again, if we look back, right? If we look back, we know that there's going to be stepping stones to 20K. So let's picture this. Let's picture these as our stepping stones. Okay, this one down here is kind of like this is the floor, right? And we moved up. We moved up to to this range here. We were there for a little while, and then we moved up. So we have our kind of like our first stepping stone here. So we came up, went sideways, up, sideways, okay, up, sideways. So we're basically kind of stepping our way up, if you will, back to 20K. And the thing is, right, is if you look back, we know that we need to do this. We've seen what happens when you go up too quickly, right? We've seen what happens. If Bitcoin's going up too quickly, and we're not really moving sideways for any meaningful amount of time, there is a small sideways movement here, but even that was only, it was only a month. So if we're just mainly just going straight up, 4x over the course of 3 months or 3 to 4 months, it's generally not sustainable in the long term, and we're not going to be able to hold it. Alternatively, if we do what we did last cycle, right, on our way back to 1100, which is what we did last cycle, we saw the same type of moves, right? We have we have our kind of like our base support, right? We have, this accumulation range here, this one. And you could even, if you want to be a little bit more liberal on it, you could even draw it further out to say that first peak that encompassed it, right? You can see the second one as well. The second one, I mean, I'm sure many of you guys lived through this too. In case you weren't around crypto back here, these were significant moves, sideways for the most part, like these big dips. And when you look at these moves sideways, this first one over here, I mean, it was more than half a year. This was more than half a year moving sideways. This one was approximately the same amount of time if you're liberal in terms of what the accumulation range is. This one would be going from around 600 up to around 800. This one was from around 400 up to around 500. So there's a lot of sideways movements, right? But what did this give us? So this was our base support, our first stepping stone back to 1100, second stepping stone back to 1100, and then we had more in here, right? We had more that got us back to 1100, right? So it was kind of like this was our first major stepping stone, our second major stepping stone, and then the third one was getting back to our prior all-time high. Now, if you guys follow the channel, we talk about the idea of lengthening cycles, it taking longer to get there. So let's look at these stepping stones, right? So if we just talk about them again, right? So we have our base kind of down here. And by the way, I do think that this capitulation was actually, in hindsight, of course, it was really good. This capitulation that we had earlier, it didn't feel as significant, I feel, as this one. And the reason is because, I don't think that a lot of people were not necessarily expecting a 60% drop overnight. Like how many of you guys woke up and you saw, your entire portfolio just down 60% in a few hours. That's a wake-up call. If there's a wake-up call to crypto, it's going to sleep and then waking up and seeing your entire portfolio down 60%. So this capitulation, I think, was very good. And in hindsight, we kind of developed our new base here, and we're kind of stepping our way back up to 20K. And if we take into account, right, lengthening cycles and the idea that it's going to take longer to get to a sustainable 20K, right? Well, we still have a ways to go because, we need to get way up here, and these stepping stones are still pretty far away. I don't think there's a good chance the next one is just going to take us all the way up to 20K. What I think is more likely, right, is we might continue on up, but the next one, could be 13 to 14K. And then we would have, 15, 16K, 18K, 20K, probably hold resistance out of the first time we get to it. And then back down below. It's going to take time. But regardless, it does seem like we are, we're systematically moving up and then moving sideways, and then moving up and then sideways, and then up and then sideways. And then, of course, every time we move sideways, people get bored. It's the markets kind of die off a little bit. But we recognize at the same time that these are key for the market cycle. This is the time, this is the base that we have to really build out in order for us to reach a sustainable 20K. And a lot of you guys have this 20K in your head like it's like the end all be all. But we could get to 20K next month for all we know. I mean, if Bitcoin were to just go into some ridiculous bubble, if you look at, if we take a step back here and look at monthly candles, and compare it to back to the last cycle, you can see that the candle that took Bitcoin to 20K, I mean, it was all the way down here at one point at 10K, and we're already breaking above that, right? This candle we had over here was the second highest candle close ever printed for Bitcoin. So, it's not hard for Bitcoin to necessarily go to 20K in the short term. I think it's unlikely that it would go there next month. I mean, 14K is certainly on the cards. You can see, the top of this candle here was at around 14K, and this was back in 2019. And then this one was back in 2017. This one over here was in 2019, but it was just a wick to the top. So going to 14K would not be as impressive in my eyes. It would just be kind of business as usual, so to speak. So a move to 13 to 14K, I would say, is business as usual. A move to 20K in the short term, and you might want to scratch your head a little bit. Okay, what's going on? How sustainable is this? Can we consider this to be a stepping stone, or is it a bubble? Right? Is it a bubble or a stepping stone? I'm trying to identify between the two. And if we plot on back our back the regression line for Bitcoin. Yeah, so I mean, here we are, still well within our regression line. And remember too, like, the last cycle as well, these stepping stones, right, were in the bulk of our regression line, right? So we had one in 2015 and 2016. This one was in 2016 to early 2017. And then, of course, we know that once Bitcoin got to its prior all-time high, that is when it went parabolic and not a moment before. So again, I would say we're more on, Bitcoin is following the green line, right, until it gets to the prior all-time high, as it did last cycle. You extrapolate that to this current time, and you say, okay, well, this is the bottom. Probably need to draw it a little bit better. So that's the bottom, and if we're going up to, say, the next to 20K, it's probably going to take us another year and a half or so to get to a sustainable one. But the nice thing, right, is of course it would more or less just give you more time to accumulate anyways if you are convinced that Bitcoin is going to go back to 30K, 40K, or get up to those for the first time and go to maybe even 100K. It gives you more time to accumulate, right, within our regression band, just like we had a pretty long time during the last cycle to do so. Okay, so it's one of those things, right, where everyone gets antsy, everyone wants to see a move, but I guarantee you, whenever imagine this is right, and we slowly move up to 20K, we're gonna get there, right? We're gonna get there eventually, I imagine. And then I think we'll go parabolic after that. And once we do, I guarantee you that a lot of people new to crypto, and even a lot of people that are into crypto now, are still going to be looking back at this time and wishing they could have lived in it a little bit longer, right? Just a further accumulation. Because of course if this does play out, and lengthening cycle theory is true, which I think it is, then we're looking at a peak maybe in say 2023 or so. And if that is true, well, you guys can extrapolate, and you guys are smart, right? If the next peak is 2023, well, where do you think the peak after that one's going to be, right? I mean, it's probably going to be in the 2030s. And that's not to say there can't be a lot of volatility in Bitcoin, like up and down. I mean, of course, it's going to go up 2x, 3x some months. Of course, it's going to go down, 70%, 80% some months. But in terms of looking at these paradigm shifts and what one Bitcoin means to people, like back in 2010, Bitcoin was just pennies on the dollar. In 2013, a Bitcoin is a nice dinner, right? If you go back and look at 2013, I should say before the let me actually say 2011 first, because 2011 I would say is a nice dinner, maybe not a super nice dinner, right? I mean, maybe a nice lunch, $30 lunch at the peak. Looking at 2013, right? It's kind of like a really nice dinner, right? A nice bottle of wine, $1,000 at the peak. So it changes its meaning through time, and then you get to 2017, and a full Bitcoin at the peak is like a new car, on the order of $20,000. So if you have 1 or 2 Bitcoin, you can go get a new car with that Bitcoin. So then what is when we talk about these peaks, again, it doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't be volatile during the next, even after the next peak, right? From 2023 to maybe 2031, of course it's going to be volatile. But when you think of like a Bitcoin, like what does it mean, right? And now, 1 Bitcoin, it still kind of means, it's not life-changing money, right? I mean, it's $11,000. When we get to the next paradigm shift, of course, getting to say $100,000 Bitcoin, this is where things get interesting, right? And you get into the realm of, okay, well, $100,000, that's like then the mindset of what a Bitcoin is. It goes from just being like your average car to being like a luxury car, or a down payment on a house, whatever, like sending your kids to college for 4 years. So the narrative shifts over time, right, of what a Bitcoin is. So then this is what we're talking about in terms of these like major peaks. So again, Bitcoin's going to be super volatile. We know that, but getting to these paradigm shifts in the market is what we like to look at, and that's what I think it's useful to measure things by. By the way, if we could get some more likes, if we could at least get to 100 likes, maybe 200. Maybe that's asking too much, but let's see if we can get there. So again, business as usual for Bitcoin, right? We're at 11.6. I think, as I said during the last live stream, maybe a week ago or so, I think that there's the most likely scenario for the next week, I think, is a continued move sideways. As much as people don't want to hear it, and as much as we'd like to see it move in either direction, right? A lot of us would like to see it move up to 13K, move up to 14K. A lot of us would like to see it move down because we want to get more Bitcoin, and we would like to see it go back to maybe the 20-week moving average, right? The 20-week moving average being this average that I'm showing here. It's kind of hard to say. Well, actually, this is the daily time frame. Let me switch over to the weekly time frame. So looking at that 20-week moving average, of course, there's a lot of us that would like to see it go back to that region, just so we can confirm the bull market, kind of get our first test in of the bull market, right? Because so far, I don't really think we've tested it. I mean, it feels like a bull market, right? I mean, a lot of this feels like a bull market. But, 2019 did for the most part, too. When Bitcoin went from 3,100 to 14K, it felt like a bull market. But then at the end of the day, we failed to hold that 20-week moving average as support. Whereas, you can see during the last market cycle, we were always holding it as support during the bull market. So it certainly feels like a bull market. I'm going to give you that. I would say that we're going to look back. There's a good chance we're going to look back on this time in 3 years and say, yeah, the summer of 2020 was the beginning of the multi-year bull market of Bitcoin that took us right from a few $1,000s up to 6 figures, right? This is but of course we can't identify that until we can look back on it in the future. And I'm not clairvoyant or anything. I don't have a crystal ball, so what we're looking for, of course, is just to see, okay, can Bitcoin continue this methodical move up, right, to 20K? And I would anticipate that during this move up to 20K, right, we anticipate a methodical move up to 20K, where we have stepping stones along the way. But I would anticipate that we will drop down to the 20-week moving average at various times during the move to 20K, to a sustainable 20K, of course. And the 20-week moving average right now is at 96.59, which is right where that CME gap is for a lot of people who follow the CME gap. I'm not one of the people that prescribe to the idea that we have to fill it. I know a lot of people do. I do not think that it's necessary that we need to fill it. I know some of you might think, oh well, it breaks the trust, right? But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be one of those things that we kind of look back on and laugh that some people thought that it had to get filled. But of course, watch it get filled, and then the narrative will continue. But I don't think it needs to get filled. So what I think, again, right, is I think we will methodically move up to 20K, but I think we will test the 20-week moving average several times on the way to 20K, on the way to a sustainable 20K. So let me just check out the chat. I haven't looked at it yet. All right, and then let's take a look at Ether. Let's take a look at Ethereum. As we said, we made a video on Ethereum the other day. And what did we say, right? I mean, a lot of you guys hold Ether, right? If you hold Bitcoin, I think a lot of you hold Ether as well, because you want a little bit more exposure to something that has a little bit likely more of an expected return, but you're paying for that expected return with units of volatility, units of risk. So for Ethereum, it's currently at 404, and we made a video the other day saying, this is a methodical shift, right, in the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio as well. And the reason, and you can think about it, right, the first time that Ether crossed $400, it corresponded to Bitcoin crossing $12,000, okay? But then the second time that Ether crossed $400, Bitcoin was then crossing like 11.7 or 11.8. And then, it's like every time that Ether crosses $400, the Bitcoin valuation is lower, right? And we identified this the other day, saying that, okay, now that Ether's crossed it, I mean, Bitcoin just spiked up to 11.6, but when Ether did cross $400, Bitcoin was closer to 11.5. So again, I do think it's a shift in the valuation of Ethereum against Bitcoin, as we've been noting for many months now, right? I think we're going to continue. I think Ethereum is likely to continue moving up against Bitcoin. And the reason, right, it's not rocket science, it's just data science. As we've said, the reason is none other than the fact that Bitcoin is above its 20-week moving average, right, which we've said is the first prerequisite for Ethereum to do well. In addition to Bitcoin being above its 20-week moving average, what else is also important, right? We know there's something else that's important too. In addition to it being above its 20-week moving average, it's important that Bitcoin doesn't get too crazy, right? If Bitcoin starts going up to 14K tomorrow, then the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio will likely bleed. I'm not going to say that Ethereum valuation against USD would drop, because it would probably go up. If Bitcoin goes up, then Ether versus USD would probably go up. But it probably wouldn't go up as much as Bitcoin would. So what Ether needs, right, what Ethereum needs to ensure that it continues to gain value against Bitcoin, right, is for Bitcoin to continue doing what it's been doing for the last several months, right? A slow move up, right? A slow move up, and then just move sideways. Stay above the 20-week, right? That's what we need. That's the main thing that we need for Ethereum to continue doing well. And I mean, I would love to see it. I mean, even in the video the other day, we said if Bitcoin just stays, between 11.4, 11.5, 11.6, somewhere in that area, the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio will likely continue to move up. I think that's what we're seeing. And as we've said with Ethereum many times, be on the lookout for a bubble forming. Okay, we're not saying that it has to form. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. But the point, right, is to say, okay, it seems like the conditions are set, right? It's a necessary but not sufficient condition. Okay, so it's one of those things where it's like, it seems like the stars are aligning, right? The stars could be aligning here for Bitcoin for Ethereum to blast off to 500, 600, 650, right? I feel like there's a good chance that could happen as long as Bitcoin just continues either moving sideways or sometimes slowly moving up, right? So a sideways movement or a slow move up is really good Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. So we don't know if there's going to be a bubble forming, but you can sure as hell be ready, or you can sure as hell bet that if one does form, we're going to be ready for it, right? And that's all it is, and that's all there is to it, right? It's being prepared for these bubbles when they come, because we don't know when they're going to come. What we can do is look at what the data suggests and say, you know what? You look back at the last cycle of Ethereum. You go back to say, let's look at the Ethereum Bitcoin. Well, let's look at this chart first. You look back at say the early 2016. This is when Ethereum went up, right? If you take it from the bottom, it's more, but let's just take it from early 2016 up. It went up around 1,600%, and this, as we know, as we've shown on the channel many times, early 2016, that bubble that formed, right, was when Bitcoin was holding the 20-week moving average as support. So it held it as support for the first time in February of 2016. So despite the fact that Bitcoin went down during that time, it still held it as support. Ethereum kind of hesitated for a bit, and then it started just blasting off during the first quarter of 2016. And so this is what I want to see. Now we're obviously delayed a bit in this cycle, because if you were to prescribe to say 4-year cycle theory, then and I mean, I guess it's not that it has to play out exactly the same, right? We know that history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it can often rhyme. So, but if we had seen a similar move, where it went up like this bubble type movement, then we would have expected it to have happened 6 months ago, right? Back in February of 2020, or somewhere around there. I mean, I know it's not exactly a 4-year theory, right? It's based around the halvings, which are not exactly 4 years, but more or less, give or take a few months. What's a few months among friends? We would have expected it to already happen. So again, what we're saying here, right, is we don't know if this bubble is going to form, but if it does form, we're sure as hell going to be ready for it. And it's the same thing with Bitcoin, right? I don't know if Bitcoin's going to go to 100K. I think there's a good chance that it will go to 100K over the next 3 years. And if it does, we're going to be ready for it, right? We're not going to be the ones stuck on the sidelines watching it go to 100K and not having a piece of the pie. As we know, there is a huge risk to holding Bitcoin, but I would say there's a larger risk to not holding Bitcoin. So this is the key thing. There's a larger risk to not holding Bitcoin, in my opinion, than there is the risk to holding it in the first place, because you don't want to get left behind, right? If millions of people are seeing a 10x ROI on Bitcoin and you're not, that's a risk, right? That's a huge risk I'm not willing to take personally. So that covers Bitcoin, that covers Ethereum. Link is obviously doing well. It's back to $17. Again, this is one of the ones, another one of the ones that we said that you cannot afford not to hold during the market cycle, right? It's Link, and we've been saying this since it was $2 to $3 on the channel, mainly because it tends to go up even when Bitcoin is going down. It's not correlated to Bitcoin. It improves your covariance matrix for calculating your risk-adjusted returns and developing your efficient frontier. And so it's historically speaking, it is a great coin to hold and to DCA into, right? I mean, of course, the risk is high now, but if you look at the Link Bitcoin chart, I mean, this is one of the most impressive, macro charts you're going to see in crypto from the year from late 2017 to present day. How many coins have done this in the last 3 years? I mean, how many have? Of course, there's been some coins that have gone up significant amount in, say, 2020, but how many of them have seen this sustained movement, right? Where it's basically just going, parabolic over the long haul, right? It's basically going parabolic against Bitcoin over the long haul. So again, as I've said before, Link is one of those coins that, as I've said with Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's too risky, in my opinion, not to hold it. Now, with that said, it's hard to get into now, right? It's already up 20x or so in not a very long period of time. So it's super risky to get into right now. I'm not saying that people should go buy it. Again, this is not financial advice. If you are going to be DCAing into it, I would, if you are getting into it, just be aware that it could drop significantly in the short term. But again, for me, Link is one of those ones that I will hold a decent amount of it for the duration of the market cycle, whatever the risk level that I have on it says. I mean, we know we cover the risk levels on here. I mainly follow it for Bitcoin, Ethereum. I use the risk levels for Link and ADA as well, but the confidence on them, right, is not as strong. Why is it not as strong? Well, Link has not been around for a bull market, believe it or not. You might say, well, I mean, this sure as hell looks like a bull market to me. What I mean to say is that it's not been around for a Bitcoin bull market. And the Bitcoin bull market is a game changer in terms of crypto. We've seen, and we've made videos on Link in the bear market, so go check them out. We've seen what Link can do in the bear market. Now we're going to get the chance to see what Link can do in a bull market. Because historically speaking, after Link made a move like this, it almost always corresponded to then Bitcoin crashing, right? Bitcoin going below its 20-week. And when that happens, altcoins tend to crash against USD, and they tend to crash against Bitcoin. So it's as simple as that, right? It's basically saying, you know what? Link has performed exceptionally well during the bull market or during the bear market. Like, I can't wait to see what's in store for it during a theoretical bull market that could take Bitcoin to 100K. And we've shown before, right? I made a full video on the time for Link to get to $100, right? We talked about this back when it was like $3, right? A lot of you guys remembered it was like an on-chain video of Link, the on-chain path to $100. I think it was actually $80 in that video. Then in a recent video, it was the same analysis, but in terms of basically in terms of being a little bit more clickbaity, which I apologize for, but you guys tend to like it. I said $100, right? So when and someone asked me on Twitter this today because I put a poll out. I said, okay, well, when can Link get to $100? When could it theoretically get to $100? And all you have to do, we looked at it on chain in a lot of videos to see what it needs to do to get to $100. But if you just look at the Link Bitcoin ratio, right, and you extrapolate out, you take this general trend, right, and then extrapolate out, and let's say we take it to 2022, and we anticipate, right, that Bitcoin will be at a sustainable $20,000 by 2022, right? And by when I say 2022, I don't mean the end of 2022. I mean maybe like the end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022. So if Bitcoin is at a sustainable 20K in, say, 16 months or so, and the Link Bitcoin ratio just continues doing what it's been doing, like it doesn't even, like, forget the bubble, right? Forget the bubble that we're in. Like, let's be conservative with Link, right? Let's be conservative and say, let's just consider this general move here and say, okay, well, we know that if at the very least, if Link is holding the lower bound support here, and let's say it continues to move up, let's draw another line as well, and say it generally at the top of the range, right? Let's say it's somewhere here in the middle. Let's be a little bit more liberal and say let's somewhere here in the middle. Well, you can see that ratio, and let's say Link bounces back in between this range. Let's be pessimistic, right? I mean, a lot of people are optimistic and think it's going to go up here. Let's be a little bit pessimistic and say, what if we cool off a little bit, but continue the general trend upwards, right? So let's take the conservative approach, right? So that we don't get too ahead of ourselves. And let's say it moves up like this, okay? Well, if that's the case, and by the way, this isn't necessarily something unprecedented. It's literally just doing what it's been doing for the last 2.5 years, right? Against its ratio against Bitcoin. So if it continues moving up like this, hold on, let me check out the chat here because it's kind of getting a little crazy. Someone says your shilling of alts make them repulsive to the knowledgeable and experienced. I've been in crypto since 2011. I've been in Link for a long time, since it was like a couple bucks, less than a couple bucks actually. The last time I bought Link was less than $2. So if you think that I'm just talking about it now that it's $20, then I think you don't really know what you're talking about. So I'll just write you off as a troll and move on. So if it continues up this the general trend that we've been in, right? And again, not super hard to do as long as it's business as usual with Link. I mean, we like things to be business as usual. You guys can forget. He's already been blocked from removed from the channel, so he can't even talk here anymore. So let's be pessimistic with Link. Let's be pessimistic and say that we come back into the channel but continue moving up. Let's say the ratio by the end of 2021 gets to 0.002. Okay, this is against Bitcoin. Well, if Bitcoin is 20K, then right, if Bitcoin's 20K and Link is moving up, well, we know if the ratio were 0.001, then I mean that's basically where we currently are. I mean we bubbled really quickly. So if it were 0.001, which would be somewhat pessimistic considering it's already 0.0015. But if it were 0.001 and Bitcoin were $20,000, then that would put us, at around $20, right? So I mean, 20,000, 2,220 bucks. A 0.002 though would put us around $40. Okay, but again, I mean, this would be a very conservative approach. I think it's certainly possible that we are higher than that, right? I mean, it could be, if we're up here, we're already at a valuation of 0.00147 or 147,000 sats. So just consider that, right? If we're already at 147,000 sats and our conservative goal was 200,000 sats by the end of 2021, then I think it would just be business as usual in terms of at least getting to like a $40 link, $50 link. If it's above it, then maybe a $100 link. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't think that Chainlink is just like I wouldn't consider it just a useless altcoin. I mean, you guys know I'm pretty skeptical about talking about altcoins. I don't really talk about that many. A lot of people, I think, on their YouTube channels get paid to shill altcoins, and I've never accepted any type of paid promotion on my channel, right? And the reason is simply because I want you guys to trust that what I'm saying is what I actually think and not just what I was paid to say, right? I want you guys to know that, okay, I'm not just saying it because I have some ulterior motive, where someone sponsored me and gave me some of that random altcoin, right? I'm doing it because I find value in where it's headed, and I have a large position, and I want to communicate the reason why I do. And I mean, again, a lot of these channels that shill every altcoin, right, the flavor of the day, if you will, the flavor of the month, in a couple months, these coins are it's just the flavor of the month again, right? I mean, a lot of these coins are going to come and go, and you'll look back on these paid promotions in a year and just be like, oh, I can't believe, people really thought that these coins were really going to do that much. But again, you get caught up in cryptocurrency mania, and I guess anything's possible. But be really careful, right? When you see these YouTubers shilling a different altcoin every day as some paid promotion, they have like an ulterior motive, right? I mean, they do. So just keep that in mind. So when I talk about things like Link, none of these are paid promotions, of course. These are just the main bulk of my portfolio, as I've said, is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, and ADA, and then there's a few others as well. So let's continue talking about some of the coins. So ADA, right? ADA is one of the ones we talk about on the channel. We're going to briefly look at that one. It has come back down against Bitcoin, but it seems like it's actually close to, if you look at, say, symmetry, right, and you say, it came down, so this was the first move down, back up, and then down, so down, up, down, and then this one was up, and then maybe down to this point here if we're lucky, right? And this isn't rocket science either, but just looking at the general trend, right? Coming back down to support, and then maybe hopefully we'll continue back up. But again, I do think that ADA is very risky, and we did follow it since it was 1 or 2 cents, and I told you guys that I would be buying it aggressively up to 10 cents, and that is exactly what I did. And I have not bought it above 10 cents, right? I mean, and what's the point? If we had years to buy it at 2 cents, at 3 cents, at 4 cents. And when it's at 12 cents, my argument to myself is like, okay, like I got enough ADA below 3 cents as it was. There's no reason to FOMO in at 12 cents. Let's take a quick look at Polkadot, because we are, as we said before, we are following that one on the channel. I said I think it has a significant role to play this market cycle. Unfortunately, we don't really have a ton of useful data, just because it hasn't been around very long. But I would say for this one, it could be one of those ones that it's a really decent one to hold for the next several years. And again, there's really no way to understand the projected volatility of something like DOT. There's no way to understand what the risk level is based on historical volatility, just because there really isn't historical volatility. So because of that, right, it's super risky. And again, if you're able to bite off that risk, then good for you, right? Good for you. I also want to quickly remind you that there is XRP, right? And I don't own XRP. Let me first say I do not own XRP. And the reason why, as many of you know, is because it tends to bleed. I know I'm going to get the question in the chat in a few minutes anyways, because it inevitably is always asked by someone. So let me just go ahead and address it now. The reason, right, is because it tends to just bleed against Bitcoin until Bitcoin gets at least to its prior all-time high. You can see that when Bitcoin got above its 20-week moving average, was above it for about 100 days. XRP did see this nice move up here, right? But it still continued the macro bleed, right? The macro bleed against Bitcoin. We move to present day. People get super excited because we see a small move up. But guess what? In my opinion, it's still a macro bleed against Bitcoin, right? Still a macro bleed. If you look at XRP, let's take October. Let's take the October. We're going to do it for XRP and Bitcoin, or XRP and Ethereum, and let's take a measured move from the peak here to where it currently is against Bitcoin, down 35% since late October 2019. Now let's be fair and look at where was Ethereum late October 2019. Well, late October 2019, Ethereum was right here, and at the peak, it is up 55%. So when you tell me that things like XRP are good long-term holds, I just respectively have to completely disagree with you, because there's a huge opportunity cost in holding XRP, in my opinion, before Bitcoin gets to its prior all-time high, right? You hold it before it gets to its all-time high, you're likely going to continue to see it bleed against Bitcoin over the macro scale. Again, there's going to be some people, I would probably call them amateurs, that you see these short-term pumps, and then you say, oh, haha, I told you it was the right thing. But we look at the macro picture and recognize that it's more likely to continue going down than it is to go up. That's not to say that it can't go up. If it goes up and you see XRP blast off like this, then I'll tip my hat to everyone who held it, but I will not be along for that ride. So again, So we've covered Bitcoin, we've covered Ethereum, we've covered Link, we've covered ADA, we've covered DOT, we've covered XRP, and let me see if there are any other things. So I didn't say all XRP holders are amateurs. I did not say that. So you're putting words into my mouth. I did not say that all XRP holders are amateurs. I said that all the people who see these short-term breakouts, right? Let's zoom in. I mean, I think the people that see these short-term breakouts and basically say, that this is the time, right? I mean, who saw? I mean, it was crypto Twitter was going crazy for XRP a week or two ago, saying that this was it, right? That this was the time that it was going to blast off. And what did we say, right, on our live show? We said, no, this, again, is nothing more than the same thing that we've seen time and time again. And then on the very first pullback for Bitcoin, when you see Bitcoin pull back at all, the XRP Bitcoin ratio is going to bleed, right? And since that time, since August 1st of 2020 to now, it's bled 15%. Let's see how much Ethereum Bitcoin has bled since August 1st of 2020. So we go to August 1st of 2020. So right here, right? Hasn't really bled at all. It's right where it was, right? XRP has gone down, Ethereum's right where it was, and note that it's right where it was. And it was already up against Bitcoin 56% since October of 2019, and XRP was down 33% against Bitcoin since October of 2019. So again, it's just business as usual. It's just what the data says. I would say focus on the data. Don't get swept away by these shills that you see on YouTube and Twitter talking about these short-term moves against Bitcoin as something that this is going to be the breakout. We know that it's likely to be a bit longer, so I just want to bring this message to you guys. So because I know I always get the XRP question. By the way, if you have a Litecoin question, the same reasoning for Litecoin or the same reasoning that I just had against XRP applies to Litecoin too. If you look at the Litecoin ratio again, it just tends to, and this is against Bitcoin. Let me switch over to the daily chart. Same thing as this is a weird wick, but you look at say early 2018, and what has Litecoin done, right? I mean, it hasn't done anything remarkable. Down 80% against Bitcoin. Yeah, no thanks, right? I mean, wake me up when Bitcoin gets to 20K, and I'll think about it, right? I'll think about it then, and even then with Litecoin, I'm not so sure. So the main time to really get into Litecoin, if you're looking for a short-term thing, right, is to look at it when it's going into the halving, right? So into each halving, Litecoin tends to do well. Into the Litecoin halvings, right? It tends to do well. A lot of other times, it's mainly just wait till Bitcoin gets to the all-time high and then get in and get out. But again, XRP, Litecoin, I think it's the same narrative. I'm not going to touch them with a 10-foot pole, not until at least Bitcoin gets to the prior all-time high. And again, that doesn't mean that they won't both trend up with the market. I just think that the opportunity cost of holding them is way too high, right? By the way, if we could get some likes, we have 500 viewers. Let's try to get up to at least 200 or 300 likes. Help out the algorithms. Yeah, and one of the things, one of the questions that we get about DeFi, right? Again, DeFi to some degree is the flavor of the day. Now, I think that DeFi has an important role to play this cycle, right? I think that, it already is, right? You already see a lot of coins that are in DeFi going up and the bubbles forming. But let me say this now, okay, do not get too consumed in it, because I guarantee you, I absolutely guarantee you, after living through this, these crypto markets for so long, I guarantee you that a lot of the projects that are quote unquote like DeFi, right, are going to look like they're going to look ridiculous in a couple years. Like the fact that people actually bought them. So when you're talking about DeFi and you're saying, oh, you can earn these interest rates on these platforms. Remember, there's unstated risks associated with that. I mean, maybe some of them are stated, maybe they're not, but there's no free lunch, right? There's no free lunch. If you're getting an interest rate in crypto that is significantly higher than you're able to get in, say, traditional finance, then it's either very short term, right? Super short term, or there's unstated risks, I think, in my opinion, that you just don't know about, right? This is my opinion. I think that DeFi has an important role to play. I think that, over the long haul, I mean, not having, say, a centralized party that you have to go to get out a loan is a good thing. But at the same time, if you think about this narrative, right? Go back to 2017, right? What was it that fueled that bull run, right? It was the ICO craze, the Ethereum ICO mania, right? It was the ICO mania. People were just flooding into the market. They were creating whatever altcoin they wanted to, and people were buying it because it was an ERC20 token. And for some reason, the average American does not recognize the fact that a seventh grade middle schooler can make an ERC20 token. You think, oh, an ERC20, it must be something amazing. No, it's not. Any one of you could probably look up a YouTube tutorial on how to make an ERC20 and have one printed within the hour. So first of all, a lot of these ERC20s are completely worthless. And especially, the ones I really have a problem with are the ones that are completely pre-mined, but in addition to being pre-mined, they really have absolutely no use case. They have no use case, they're completely pre-mined, and when the team holds 50 or 60% of the supply, and then of course on top of it no use case, just some gimmick, right, that you can market. This is what I have a problem with. These are probably the ones that are going to come crashing down. So go back to the ICO craze, remember it, right? It was crazy at the time. So what happened, right? Retail threw all their money into these ICOs. They just threw their money into the ICO mania, and it basically went crazy. People lost their money. In the same manner, I think that DeFi can be a partial catalyst to the bull run. I don't think it's going to be the only thing. But I think that maybe you're going to have another round of ICOs. I mean, you're already having another ICO mania to some degree. But if DeFi is, say, the one of the bigger catalysts, I think another one would be, say, Ethereum 2.0. Let me just go ahead and remove the trolls. So one of the other things, right, about DeFi, if you think about it, is that people are going to be able to take out loans, right, and leverage their crypto more than they should be allowed to, right, in any normal circumstance. And you could argue what should be allowed is kind of up for debate. But in, say, a normal real world environment, a lot of these people that are going to be taking out loans during the peak of, say, 2023 or something have no business taking out loans, and they're just getting over leveraged out of their ears. At the end of the day, I think that in the same way that the ICO mania came crashing down, there's going to come a day, right, where DeFi, maybe it'll go parabolic, maybe it'll do really well for a few years, but then we're going to come to a point where there's people that are not being smart with their money. They're taking out positions that they really can't afford, and then it's just going to basically lead to the capitulation again of another paradigm shift in the market, right? And that could be Bitcoin going to somewhere between 1 to 200K and then dropping back down to 50K or something. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of trolls I see in the chat, but what the nice thing about doing the live stream is it tends to bring out the trolls, right? So I can weed them out and go ahead and remove them from the channel. Someone says thoughts on XRP. I just talked about XRP for a while. But yeah, I mean, think about it. Think about DeFi. People are going to make stupid decisions, and then it's just going to, it's basically going to, they're going to take out crypto. They're going to put up their crypto as collateral, the markets are going to tank, then they're going to get liquidated, and it's just going to lead to a capitulation, because then they get liquidated, so then they have to sell their other crypto to make sure they can cover their mortgage or whatever. I think it's going to be a bad time when that occurs, but we could still be a long ways off from that. So I will answer any questions. Before I do, let me just remind you, I don't have any paid promotions, right? I don't even make you guys watch ads, that are not my own. So the only ad I'm going to put in here, right, is just another plug to my premium list. So if you want to check out the premium list, intothecryptoverse.com, check it out, and you get a lot of you do get a lot of information, I think, by being on it. So you get access to the weekly premium reports, the weekly premium videos, the risk dashboard, which is what I use to trade, of course, the dynamic DCA sell strategy dashboard, where you can test out various strategies to in terms of how you're going to move out of the market. And then you also get access to an alerts channel and access to a private chat room. So the prices are going to be going up September 28th again. So if you want to get grandfathered in, make sure you sign up sooner rather than later. And you can also get a discount by paying with crypto. So let's go back to the charts. Let's just quickly see if anything has moved. Bitcoin's back above 11.6. Ethereum's 405 or so. Let's see where Link is. Probably 17. Yeah, still 17. That kind of sums up, right, the kind of like the introduction to the video. So if you guys have questions, I will go ahead and answer those questions. Michelle says, Ben, your son bought Bitcoin already. Yeah, I mean, he came on one of the live streams a few weeks ago and told you guys to buy Bitcoin when it was at like 10K. Some of the best advice you probably could have ever gotten was from that 4-year-old. So Tom Riddle says, what's your opinion on the Fed printing money and how money is made in general? There are parts of the economy that tend to contract, right, when there's a lot of money printed. So even though the Fed wants to print money and put money into circulation, you still experience some level of deflation because people aren't necessarily spending their money. A lot of people thought, right, that there was going to be a ballooning inflation after the 2008 financial crisis, right? But it didn't end up being, right, nearly as bad as what a lot of people were saying back then. It was like all doomsday, right? But then again, we did recover and we continued on. This time it is different, of course. Like, it's not exactly the same. It is somewhat it is worrisome, right? The amount that they're printing. And it could significantly affect things in the future. And you could argue, right, that the markets, one of the reasons that the markets, right, and we're not just talking about crypto, one of the reasons that the markets, like equities, are going up so much is not because that they're necessarily worth, like the base value of them in terms of some other denomination is going up, but it may be just because the US dollar valuation is going down, right? And if we take a look here, let's take a look at the that index. Well, let me just pull up it versus the euro, because I don't. So if you look at, not sure why it's like that. Yeah, if you look at the USD valuation against the euro, I mean, just over the last few months or so, I mean, it's been going down a lot, right? I mean, even since June, it's down a significant percentage here. So when we talk about things like Bitcoin and Ethereum going up, we have made dedicated videos, right, to the US dollar, or to the Bitcoin valuation against the US dollar, and it looks different, right, than if you value it against the US dollar or if you value it against the euro. And the reason is because USD valuation has been dropping. So even if theoretically the actual demand for Bitcoin stayed the same, and then the price theoretically was going to stay the same against some other denomination that wasn't moving, USD is going down. So if the USD valuation is going down, then it's going to take more USD to purchase the same Bitcoin, that you would have been able to purchase from 2 months ago, assuming that the demand for Bitcoin stays the same. So, it's not an exact, matchup, right? It's not like the percentages aren't equal, but my opinion, right, is that it could affect markets, and you could argue that maybe this is what inflation looks like, right? Maybe seeing like the S&P 500, if we just say look at so. Actually, maybe I should look at, maybe let me pull up the NASDAQ. So if we pull up the NASDAQ, you could argue, right, that maybe part of the move up now is what you're seeing, right? You're seeing just the devaluation of the dollar, and that it's worth more now than it was because the USD value is just worth less. That's one reason, of course. I think the money printing and the crash, the coronavirus crash and everything, it all kind of created like a very unique environment for equities to rally, right? From the bottoms to the where we currently are. And as far as equities are concerned, I think that they're going to continue to rally for a while longer. Maybe during election time, I think they do tend to dip a little bit during election season. But even then, even when they dip, they do tend to recover fairly quickly, I think. So, there's probably a good chance they're going to retrace at some point. But again, it's anyone's guess because most people weren't predicting them. Most people weren't predicting the NASDAQ to get to new highs this quickly, right? Most people were thinking that it was just going to be a continued crash for months and months and months. And this is why everyone was, talking about all their puts that they were, all their options trading, their puts and stuff on the SPY. And when I saw that, I actually started buying equities, right? And if you don't believe me, we did do a video back in March on the stock market on the S&P 500 and saying that the risk level at the time was around 0.3, and it hasn't been that low in a really long time. And so at that point, I really started buying, and you guys should check out that playlist. It's basically just on traditional markets. Okay, let's see what questions do we have. Jolly says, do you think if someone is heavy into alts, they should switch to Bitcoin? It's a tough call, right? Altcoins, the main time that altcoins rally is when Bitcoin is above the 20-week moving average, and right now it is above the 20-week moving average. So it's a tough call. In terms of your say expected ROI, it would probably be higher in altcoins over 3 years. Well, it depends on what altcoins you're talking about. If you're talking about the top 10, top 20, it's probably your expected return would likely be higher than just holding Bitcoin. At the same time, the risk of holding those coins is a lot higher than holding Bitcoin. So you have to think about your risk-adjusted returns, right? It's not just about your returns, it's about what your risk-adjusted returns are. So, in terms of altcoins, if I had a huge exposure to altcoins, if you see Bitcoin going below the 20-week moving average, I would start to get pretty skeptical about holding too many altcoins, because it's when Bitcoin breaks below the 20-week moving average is when altcoins tend to bleed. And by the way, if Bitcoin were to drop down to the 20-week moving average today, right? If it were to drop down to 9,600, you can bet that altcoins would likely bleed against Bitcoin. But it's just that if it holds it, then a lot of these altcoins will likely recover, right? If it breaks it, though, then this is when altcoins bleed like crazy against Bitcoin, and it's when I would personally consolidate out of most altcoins. And when I say altcoins on this channel, I'm not referring to numbers 5,000 or 6,000 on CoinMarketCap. I'm talking about maybe the top 10 to 20 by market cap. We're not talking about micro cap coins or anything. Yeah, someone says the 20-week covers the CME gap. Yeah, we did say that. It does. If it were to drop to the 20-week, it would correspond to the CME gap, right? So if we're going to drop to the 20-week and hold it as support, and make sure that the bull market is in full swing, right, as we've done in past cycles, right, looking at the 20-week moving average and saying, okay, we know that the 20-week, right, is, I'm not sure what line's being drawn here. but yeah, looking at the last market cycle and saying, okay, we know that the 20-week tend to held, or it did hold, right, every time we tested it during that market cycle. If we're gonna fill that CME gap that I don't think we need to fill, but if we do fill it and we want to stay in a bull market by definition of holding the 20-week, then we need to do it soon. And it could be, right, that the 20-week, continues on up. We come down, right? Maybe we bounce off of it, and maybe there's just like a wick down to fill the gap, right? There could be a wick down. Again, holding the 20-week is on the weekly time frame, right? We're not talking about wicks, we're talking about the weekly time frame. So this is what I would be looking for. Augusti says, you don't consider Ethereum an altcoin. I don't really consider Ethereum an altcoin. I mean, by definition, of course, a lot of people would say it's an altcoin. But I think when we think of altcoins, it's a little bit of a different narrative, right? I think Ethereum is, I don't personally think of Ethereum as an altcoin. I more or less think of it like as my index that I compare a lot of altcoins to. So I a lot of times I'll say, well, I compare the rest of my portfolio, like Ethereum plus all altcoins that I hold, to my Bitcoin portfolio. And if my altcoin or Ethereum portfolio cannot keep up with Bitcoin, then why would I hold all these other coins in the first place, right? Which is why I consolidate into stable coins or Bitcoin during bear markets, right? But on the other hand, if I'm holding a lot of altcoins, then I compare those against Ethereum. Like, I'll compare an altcoin portfolio that doesn't include Ethereum to Ethereum, because the argument, right, is why hold 10 different altcoins if you can just hold Ethereum and see better returns. This is the way I think about it. What's sad? It's sad that there's some people there's this one guy on the channel, and he legitimately has nothing better to do than create 10 different accounts and spam the same message in the chat over and over. I wish you had something better to do than just troll some random YouTuber. Someone says, do you consider R squared as being important? And if so, if the R squared of your logarithmic regression, is it above 95%? Well, first of all, I don't actually really consider it that important in terms of what you're talking about. The regression band on non-bubble data does have an R squared of 99%, but it's really not hard to get R squareds of 99% on fits, right? You look at other models, right, like stock to flow, where they say, oh, it's a 99%, or it's a 0.99 R squared. This is meaningless, right? I mean, y equals mx plus b. Again, a 7th grader can come up with this equation and get a nice fit and say, oh, it's an R squared of 0.99, therefore it must be right. It's not true. There's so many other things you have to take into consideration in statistics than just talking about your R squared value. Someone says your opinion on trying to get compounding interest. Yeah, I do get some interest on, or I do stake some coins on various platforms. I'm not here to shill you those platforms though, so you do your own research. But I am staking some coins and earning interest and putting them in liquidity pools and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different things you can take advantage of, but just recognize that there are a lot of risk associated with it, right? So I have some of it onboarded for those purposes, but there's still a lot of it that I'm just storing in cold storage and not really doing around hardware wallets, and I'm not even touching it for that stuff. I'm just leaving it there. Crypto Morpheus says your link prediction to $88 is happening faster than you thought. Well, I mean, I don't know if I could say that. I mean, I think that we still have a ways to go. I mean, yeah, it certainly is moving up. If it continue moving up this quickly, then yeah, we would get to $88 quicker than I thought. But there's a good chance that it's a bubble. It's a short-term bubble, and it's going to come back down, right? And there's no guarantee that it's going to continue on up that quickly. So if we could also get some more likes, let's try to get up to 400. We have 581 viewers, 275 likes. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. I do only have TradingView up during this video, but we do a lot of other custom charts and a lot of other videos, so make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Someone said, what do you think about privacy coins like Zcash and XMR? Yeah, I mean, we actually did a video on XMR the other day, right? And on Monero. Let's pull it up. Let's pull up the Monero Bitcoin chart. So this was one of those things, right, where we said, okay, well, it seems like in the same way that we identified a range for ADA, right, this accumulation range for ADA against Bitcoin that lasted, this one lasted a year or so. It seems like there could be one developing with Monero, right? And one of the reasons we said this, right, if you go, say, here to the present time, you can see it's been in this accumulation window, theoretical accumulation window, right, for 444 days. Now, what is special about Monero in this instant? Well, this is why I just want to draw your attention to Monero. Let me pull up the USD chart. So we're going to pull up Monero USD, and we're going to look back at 2016, right? What did Ethereum do in 2016? We already know what Ethereum did in 2016, right? It pumped against USD and against Bitcoin. So let me pull it back up to remind you, in case you forgot. So if you look at Monero back in say 2016, Ethereum in 2016, you can see it moved early 2016 when Bitcoin was holding the 20-week moving average as support. What did Monero do? Monero in early 2016 had a move, but it wasn't a huge move. The major move came later in 2016 and even going into 2017. So the reason why I'm talking about the Monero Bitcoin ratio, right, is because it seems, right, and things might not always be what they seem. It's we reserve the right to be wrong, of course, but it seems like it could be gearing up for a breakout move, because in the last cycle, Monero had a delayed move against USD and Bitcoin compared to, say, coins like Ethereum. Maybe it's going to have a delayed move again. If you're not familiar with Monero, it's a privacy coin. The advantage of it, of course, is fungibility. All coins are basically equal. There are no tainted coins. So obviously with Bitcoin, there could be tainted coins theoretically that could get frozen on exchanges because they're tracked to some nefarious purposes. With Monero, that's not the case because it's a privacy coin. So a lot of people would say Monero is what Bitcoin should have been, but wasn't. Of course, there's only one Bitcoin, and I don't ever see or anticipate Monero overtaking Bitcoin by market cap, of course. But the narrative of privacy coins could be a good one for the market cycle, right? And we've talked about having a diversified portfolio. Maybe you want access to your store value, so your Bitcoin, your smart contracts, right? Or the backbone to various ecosystems. So like we're talking about Ethereum, Cardano, Tezos, maybe like, other ecosystems, Cosmos, right? Polkadot, getting access to this sector. Maybe you want access to privacy coins, so you go Zcash, right? Or you go Monero, or Dash has privacy features, right? Or you look at peer-to-peer coins. Now, personally, I think that the future of peer-to-peer coins are stable coins. Many of these stable coins, of course, or the stable coin of the future that is actually used may or may not even exist yet. But if you want to speculate on volatile project, peer-to-peer, of course, there's Bitcoin Cash, which I don't own any of, and I think it's too niche of an ecosystem for me. But if you wanted exposure to it, there's XLM, XRP, of course, or cross-border payments. There's Nano, right, Instant, and Felis, of course. So look to see, right? I mean, if the network fees for Bitcoin just go through the roof again, which they already are to some degree. Look for these narratives to play out again, right? Look for the Felis, the the instant transactions, and you could see those coins doing well again potentially. So we're just talking about various sectors, right? Whether it's privacy coins, or whether it's like, the backbone like smart contracts, whatever it is, oracles like Chainlink, store of value, decentralized finance. Maybe you want access to exchanges, so you're buying some of these exchange tokens. Maybe you want access to decentralized platforms, so you're looking at maybe some of the tokens they have. Of course, there's all ways you could get exposure to the market. It's just a matter of how diversified you want to be, right? It's a matter of how diversified you want to be. Do you want access to all these different sectors? Maybe VeChain, right, for supply chain. So, that's up to you in terms of what risk management you want to take on. Sorry, I do not. Puya is asking what percentage of the portfolio is in gold. I don't share the exact percentages on the channel. Someone says, do you have exposure to Polkadot? Yeah, I do have exposure to Polkadot. We made a video on Polkadot the other day talking about this will be a coin to look out for this market cycle, of course. I notified the premium list of its importance, but of course recommending it's very risky when it first hit the exchanges a few weeks ago. So it's one that I think is a decent hold for the next few years. It's already a pretty large ecosystem. So I do think some exposure to Polkadot is not financial advice, but it's my opinion that it's a good thing. Someone says, what's your favorite moonshot hopium? I do have some, of course. I do have some smaller projects that I'm invested in, but I would not dare talk about them here. I can assure you of that. Charlie says, exit into real estate upon market crash. I've talked about that on the channel some. I do think that's actually probably a good idea. So the idea, right, is if let's say you're in a position where maybe you're wanting to buy a house soon, maybe you want to scoop up some investment properties, right, that you can then rent out. Of course, if you want to be like a landlord or something, maybe you want to buy a vacation home. The idea, right, is we could be in a very timely position if crypto moves up over the next few years, and then we know the mortgage forbearance program is going to come to an end. People have lost their jobs. The economy's not doing so well. There's probably going to be a lot of commercial real estate on the market. I think prices are already going down in some big cities for real estate, right? Because if you can work remotely, and why would you pay $4,000 to have a room in a tiny house in San Francisco or New York City when you can move out to the suburbs and spend the same amount of money on a mortgage for a pretty nice house and work remotely? So the idea, of course, is maybe crypto goes up over the next few years. We take advantage of that, right? We take our profits from crypto, and then we timely swoop into the real estate market and scoop up some cheap real estate. And the idea there, right, is not only will the real estate hopefully be cheap, but interest rates will hopefully stay low as well. The interest rates right now are basically at historic lows. But if you look at past lows in the interest rates, they tend to stay low for a while. So I'm hoping that the interest rates will stay low for a few years, that real estate will come down, and then we can have a timely exit from crypto profits, right, where people are up 50x, 100x, whatever it might be, and then moving a lot of that, de-risking our overall portfolio, right? Because if crypto goes up 100x, that's probably some really significant part of your overall net worth, and then you'd want to make sure you secure that net worth, that gain that you've seen in your portfolio, right? You don't want to have 90% of your net worth in crypto, right? Because if crypto were to crash, you don't want your net worth to crash by 90%. So the idea, right, is you don't invest more than you can afford to lose. If it goes up significantly, hopefully you cash out, and then you can move it into stocks, mutual funds, like index funds, and real estate, right? So that you can have a fully diversified portfolio, right? Right now you're being really risky, right? Crypto's really risky. Ride the wave until the next paradigm shift, and then get out, right? Who wants to ride another bear market down? If you see Bitcoin going to 100K, who wants to watch it go back to 40K or 50K, right? So the idea is that you dynamically take profits on the way up, like we do on the premium list, or if you follow the channel really closely, and then you move it into something that's less risky, right? So if the overall risk on the entire cryptocurrency market is like 0.9, then the idea at that point, of course, is to move it into other asset classes like real estate, like equities, like index funds, and then preserve that wealth, right? Right now you're being riskier because you're in crypto in the first place. You're trying to get ahead of your friends, your whoever it is, like the rest of the world. But at some point, if you move up, right, you don't want to then just watch it go back down. You want to move up, and then you want to like stabilize it somewhere, and then watch it continue to slowly move up, and then you say, okay, I saw a nice move in crypto. I got out of the market. I'm into index funds. I'm into real estate. It's slowly moving up. Now I'm going to take another portion of it and then put it back into crypto at an opportune time, or back into a riskier stock at an opportune time. But I want to preserve that wealth so I have a better life for myself and my family. Of course, this is the idea. I'm obviously generalizing it a bit easier than it actually is, but this is the goal of the channel, and is the reason why I don't do like paid promotions on like random altcoins, because I don't want to lead people astray on something that's more, say, self-fulfilling. Someone says they sent me Bitcoin for the premium list, but I haven't gotten a response. Yeah, you should just send me an email if you haven't gotten a response, but also check your promotions tab. So if you have a Gmail account, it usually will go to your promotions tab. Also, we do have a Telegram channel that you guys should check out. If you guys like the community talking crypto, make sure you check out the Telegram channel. I just put it in the chat box there if you guys want to join it. And then I'm pretty active in there. So if you have questions when I'm not on a live stream, check out that channel. Yeah, and I think Apex Funny Moment says, you probably shouldn't say exactly how much, but the idea, right, is some people think, well, it can't go up 100x or it can't go up 50x because then I'll have this much money, and that just wouldn't make sense. The thing is, right, is Bitcoin really does not care where, what valuation that puts your portfolio at. If it goes up, it's going to go up, and it's you're going to either have a piece of that pie or you're not. And I want a piece of that pie, personally speaking, and I want Ether in there as well, and Link and ADA and Polkadot and a few others. So it's just a matter of making sure that you take profits on the way up. Don't get too greedy, right? If you look at the last cycle for, say, like Ethereum, imagine like taking profits, like on the way up wherever it is, and then maybe you sell some near the peak, right? But you're still up significantly. If you had bought Ethereum in October of 2015, you had put $1,000 into Ethereum. It would have been worth $1.5 million by January of 2018. You have to, this is a significant gain, right? And this is only $1,000. If you had put $10,000, it would have been worth $10 million, right? Or more. Keep this in mind. There's this. I don't think that we're going to see the same like volatility that we've seen before. I think it'll be less, of course, but just be prepared, right? Be prepared. We take the approach that it seems like the data suggests, of course, that we're on track to see a new paradigm shift in Bitcoin in the next few years, right? As it goes up to a new blow off top, maybe by 2023. But if it doesn't, then it was a risk we were willing to take. If it does, we're going to be ready for it, and we're going to profit from it, right? This is the idea. Rami says, can you go over Chainlink? We spoke about Chainlink a lot earlier, actually. Okay, 20s investing, I think, has a good question. He says, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin not having a huge crash at the end of this cycle, since everyone will be expecting it to happen? So let me give you my thoughts on that. So what I anticipate happening, right? Let me draw this a little bit cleaner. So I anticipate Bitcoin getting to 20K, a sustainable 20K, in the next, say, 16 months, okay? From here, I expect it to go parabolic up to around this region, right? And you extend our regression line out, you can see it, kind of coming up to that window. Now, if it peaks in, say, 2023 or maybe 2024 potentially, I often say that the earliest I could see it peaking would be Q4 of 2022 and then the latest Q2 of 2024. Imagine it happens in, say, like summer, August of 2023. There's a reason why I say August. Maybe I'll show it in a video. I've shown it before, but let's say it peaks in August of 2023 and then it comes down. Well, the natural question, of course, right, is, well, what about the halving? Well, there's a halving in 2024, presumably, right? I mean, there's going to be another halving. So how does that play into it? I think that because this cycle will likely be longer than the bleed into the halving, the next halving, instead of it, as I've said before, instead of it being a catalyst to a new bull market, I think it will help curb the effects of the next bear market. We've shown macro level volatility is going down, right? We know that macro level volatility is going down. Of course, there still might be days where it goes down 50%, but in terms of the macro scale, like we're going to see it continue to diminish and bounce in this range probably, and where it won't oscillate that much year over year. We did a projection and extrapolation, a somewhat dubious extrapolation, showing that the annualized volatility would probably be somewhere around 10% at the most by the year 2045. So if this is the case, then I do think that, ultimately speaking, the next halving will help curb the effects of the next bear market rather than catalyze the next bull market. This is my thought. Hey guys, so we have questions, right? It's okay to ask questions, but if you're just wasting your breath if you're asking about altcoins, like random altcoins that most people have never heard of. I mean, I know some of them are fairly popular, but if you're just talking about some random altcoin or whatever the flavor of the day is, I'm not going to answer it. Will says, with expanding Bitcoin cycles, do you see the general crypto market to boom for longer cycles? I mean, I think that it'll boom, but it won't be quite as extravagant, right? It'll take longer to see the next move to the paradigm shift, and that move will be less than what it was the cycle before. So it's kind of like something that people don't want to hear, but I think it's important information so that you can use it to make sure you take profits when the time comes. Because if you're expecting Bitcoin to go up 100x, from $3,000, you're expecting like $300,000 Bitcoin in 2021. Nothing about the data suggests that that's remotely going to happen. Someone says, what are your thoughts on buying, buying GBTC to have access to Bitcoin in my Roth IRA or 401k? Yeah, of course. I mean, this is one way you can do it. I know some people who only own it there. You do have to pay a premium, of course. I personally, but there are some tax benefits, right? I personally, think that I don't actually own any, right? I don't actually own any of that right now, but I do know a lot of people that do. Someone says, I just randomly started talking about Polkadot. It's completely untrue. Like I told the premium list like 2 weeks before I spoke about it on my YouTube channel. And maybe you're just not on the alerts channel, --iron CA. There's an alerts channel that I said we're going to be talking about Polkadot on the YouTube channel, and I said it like 2 weeks in advance. So if you didn't see it, it's because you're not on the alerts channel. So, you can always join the alerts channel. So how much ADA do you think is a good amount to have? Obviously this is always focused on any individual person, right? Not, it's all about percentages, right? Not an absolute number. Someone said realistic expectations for Cardano. I think it's a slow grind, right? I mean, it's going to be a slow grind back to $1 if we can make it there. If we make it back to $1, then and Bitcoin's above 100K, then yeah, it could go parabolic and go to a few bucks. Of course, I feel like this would be a realistic expectation for ADA. Someone said, where did you learn data analytics and statistics? Where can I go to learn? I got my undergrad degree in math, a physics minor, a master's degree in nuclear engineering, and a PhD in nuclear engineering. So I just picked it up along the way. I didn't take like a specific course or anything that taught me all of this. It was just kind of picked up during my schooling. Someone says, what are your thoughts on Monero in the next few weeks? It's hard to say right on the next few weeks, but I think over the next few months, I'm hoping, right, for this breakout, right, for this breakout of Monero. Now, the downside is I don't know. I mean, it could come back down first and then go up. But I anticipate this move some point, right, in the next 6 to 12 months or so. Someone says that's Dr. Benjamin Cowan too. Doctor into the cryptoverse, maybe that. Someone said, what was your first crypto purchase? So I first got into crypto in 2011, but I didn't actually purchase it. I was an undergrad student. I was taking a cryptography course at the time, so I actually really didn't have any money at the time because I was an undergrad. I did buy some though a year or two later, and then I got burned in 2013 when the market crashed because let's just put it frankly, like I was a noob when it came to crypto markets in 2013. So I basically saw this come and go, and then I said, okay, well, I'm gonna make sure I don't let that happen again, and I did, right? And we saw this come up and took profits along the way. And the reason that many of you might ask me, well, why didn't I start a YouTube channel back over here? There was a very good reason for that. It was because I was doing my dissertation from 2013 to 2018. I literally was doing my dissertation from, it was June of 2013. And then I finished all of my requirements in August of 2018. So I was doing my dissertation during these 5 years, which is why I did not have a YouTube channel at that time. Okay? I knew that if I started one, I would get swept away and then I would never graduate, so I made sure not to do it. And then now I started one in 2019. And I started it in 2019. So for those of you who say, oh, well, why does this guy not have 100,000 subs if he's that good? Part of the reason is because I didn't make videos in 2017 when the markets were just going parabolic constantly. I started making videos a year ago. Oh, and I guess the question was what crypto was your first purchase? It was Bitcoin, actually. Someone said, do you think Bitcoin is going to be $20,000 in 2020? I don't think it'll make it to $20,000 in 2020. And if it does, I don't think that it would be sustained by any means. Thanks for being a premium subscriber. Someone says thoughts on taking profits in USD as USD slowly dies. I'm not a prescriber to the whole doomsday stuff, right? You see things happen, right, when stock markets crash back in March, and then all the doomsdayers come out, right? They take credit for it because they always say it, right? They always are a doomsdayer. They always say that everything's about to collapse. They say it for 1 or 2 decades, and then when finally there's a short-term correction, then they pat themselves on the back and say, "Oh, congratulations! I predicted this was going to happen." But then they don't acknowledge really the fact that it's not 5 months later and we're already back higher than where we were back then. So I'm not a doomsdayer when it comes to this stuff. I'm a little bit more pragmatic than just thinking the entire countries or the world's about to fall apart. Even though 2020 would challenge me a little bit on that claim. But I would say diversification is your best thing, right? I mean, there's some cash, right? Holding some cash is probably good, just so you have so you can cover basic necessities. But then diversifying into stocks, diversifying into maybe even bonds, commodities if you want, precious metals, right? You can always hedge with precious metals in addition to crypto. We talk about gold, silver. Another precious metal that I think doesn't get enough credit and has a really good price chart is palladium. Obviously, a lot of people like platinum too. So gold, silver, platinum, palladium, these are ones that I think could be a good hedge as well. And then, of course, there's real estate. So again, the idea is hopefully you swoop in to buy up some cheap real estate if it does crash. Michael says, "Hey Ben, love the content. Any lower level subscriptions in the future?" Probably not, man. The prices are going up on September 28th. I don't anticipate on making any lower ones. I obviously can't project that in 2 years or something. I don't know what's going to happen. But in the meantime, prices are just going to go up. James says, "Are you expecting a market crash due to all the money printing and the state of the economy?" Not. I guess it depends on what you mean by crash, right? I mean, are you saying are you expecting a depression? Like, are you expecting a 3 or 4 year recession? Are you expecting a crash like there was in March? Right, and are you expecting a crash in the stock market or the economy? Because obviously, as we can see right now, they're not exactly related. I do think that there's obviously going to be a correction at some point, right? I mean, look at tech stocks. I saw a headline the other day. Did you know that all U.S. if you take just the tech stocks of the United States, the market, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the market cap of just the tech stocks in the United States now is more than the entire market cap of all the stock, all the European, the stocks there. So I think that's actually, I mean, there's definitely some level of a bubble going on. But again, you could argue that it should be, right? I mean, American stocks, right? You got the major ones, the right thing, like Facebook, Apple, Google, right? I mean, these are the big stocks that basically run the world. And so, I mean, looking at these stocks, I feel like it makes sense that they do take up a lot of market share. I mean, Amazon, right? I mean, Amazon literally changed the world, destroyed a lot of retail. I think it does make sense. I think it's just a transformation of what our markets look like. Someone said, but the boys over on Wall Street Bets told me stocks only go. Well, they only go up until they don't, and then once they don't, then that giddiness or that camaraderie regarding stocks only going up kind of disappears. Someone said, do you think Ethereum will hit 10K in this cycle? I think that it'll come close to 10K. I don't know if it'll hit 10K. I think it'll be 5 figures, upper 5 figures for sure. And the reason is because I think it's one market cycle behind Bitcoin, right? So if you look at Bitcoin volatility, and this is a more prudent way to show it. I have more elegant ways that I show it in some of the videos. But if you do assume that the volatility of Ethereum is one market cycle behind Bitcoin, and you say, well, Bitcoin went from $200 to $20,000, it was about a 100x during the last cycle. And then you go over to Ethereum and say, well, if it's one market cycle behind it, and noting that the low was around $100, then a $10,000 Ethereum would be a 100x, meaning it would be exactly one market cycle behind Bitcoin if it were to go to $10,000. I tend to think it probably won't quite make it there. because a lot of people will be waiting to sell at that point. Of course, you could have made the same argument for Bitcoin last market cycle and it made it to 10K and then to 20K. But I do think there's a good chance that it makes it to 10K. But if it does make it to 10K, I would probably already be mostly out of the market by that point. And I'll probably get out of the market in the upper 5 figures completely, and then wish everyone luck who wants to stay in, of course, and hope you guys continue to make money. But for me, it's just too much risk for my blood, and I will move over to safer markets to secure that wealth rather than gamble it all on the fact that it goes up just a little bit more. Thanks, Corey, for the compliment. Someone said, can you give us an example of a coin that's one market cycle behind Ethereum? Yeah, probably Chainlink. Well, Thomas says, what would you do if your long-term expectations, lengthening cycles, are not met, or crypto will see a major black swan event? Do you think it's possible? The nice thing about the risk metric, of course, is right. You just take profits whenever bubbles occur. So, I think that lengthening cycles are a thing, but at the same time, like whenever a bubble occurs, it's all about dynamically taking profits on the way up because we admit we don't know where the top is, right? This is the admission you have to make. There's always another investment tomorrow, right? There's always another investment next week. The thing you want to do, right, is if you make an investment and then you see that your ROI multiply, you want to dynamically take profits on the way up, so then you have more of a baseline the next time you make investments, right? Or the next time you see these stocks that you want to buy or cryptos that you want to buy. So you just want to continue to methodically move it up. When one coin goes parabolic, you dynamically DCA out of that one into less risky coins and then see the whole portfolio just kind of balloon up together. Of course, there's always some that you could just continue to hold for years and years if you want to bite off that risk. But for me personally, I'm a little bit more risk averse after having lived through the cryptocurrency markets for so long. Therefore, I tend to offset my risk when things go parabolic by moving them into less risky coins, right? I mean, if you can catch a link on a 10x move and then you move it to Ethereum and then Ethereum goes up 10x and then you move it to Bitcoin and then Bitcoin goes up 10x. Of course, you could argue, well, what if you just kept it in Link or if you just kept it in Ethereum the whole time? Maybe it would have worked out better. But the way I do it is I lower my risk exposure to the market. Like I don't want too much risk at any given time. And the way I define the risk is the volatility level, right? I mean, it's based off the historical volatility of the coin, right? So this is the way you can think about risk. The entire risk metric is based off just the price, time, and volatility, as I've said many times. Someone says, will Bitcoin ever reach 1 million? I think so. Well, I don't know. It's really far. I think that if it does, it'll be in the 2040s, like 2040 something, before it reaches 1 million. Lexi says, you mentioned exiting crypto and rotating into other asset classes such as property at the peak. You're not interested in shorting the whole Bitcoin cycle, the whole bear cycle down. I think that leverage trading or options trading or shorting the market, longing the market, there's a place for that, and whether I do it or not, I don't really want to talk about on the channel. Mainly because I don't want to lead people astray, right? I mean, this is how you lose a lot of money. This is why I don't show leverage trading links to you guys or anything like that. So I think this is just something you have to figure out if it's right for you, and I'm not going to really comment on it. Nick says, what's your thought on real estate prices? Why are they so high? Well, I mean, one of the reasons they haven't crashed yet, I think, is because people don't have to pay their mortgages yet because they're still because of the forbearance program, right? If you don't have to pay your mortgage, they're not going on the market. And if these houses aren't going onto the market, then the supply of houses is constricted, right? If the supply is not up, if people aren't selling their houses, then the demand stays the same, then the price must go up. So once people start defaulting on their mortgages, once these companies continue going out of business because they can't bounce back after the pandemic, then I think prices will go down. But my guess, by the way, for real estate prices to move down would probably be 2021. I don't really think there's going to be much of anything, even for the rest of this year in terms of real estate. But I could see it moving down in 2021. Maybe in the second half of 2021 or something. Vipe is talking about my Patreon. I have a whole website, man, that's completely different than Patreon, which is where like 90% of people sign up. So remember, it's not Patreon. You can go to Patreon if you want to sign up, but if I would encourage you to sign up at intothecryptoverse.com, not Patreon. Patreon will get you with more fees. Everyone wants their cut, right? Corey says, do you like the stock to flow model? No, I do not. $2021 price prediction for Polkadot. I have no idea, man. I really have no idea. And I would warn anyone again about buying Polkadot. I mean, I do own Polkadot, right? I think that looking back in a few years, I think that even now, like a price of $5 or $6 is probably reasonable. But the risk on it is really high right now, right? There's just not a lot of information. I really don't understand why everyone is so obsessed with the stock to flow model. Like, I feel like it's more of a marketing gimmick than anything that was meant to be taken seriously, right? And one of the reasons I say this is because, I mean, no offense, right? But like the general masses of people don't expect or don't appreciate like real quantitative analysis a lot of times, right? They want to basically just see a nice pretty curve that shows Bitcoin going to $1 million in 5 years, right? That's what people want to see. Therefore, that's what gets upvoted the most, right? That's what people want to see. Some days I spend 5 hours making a video and it gets like 3,000 views. Another day I pull up TradingView and just ramble for 30 minutes and it's like the best video on my channel, right? So people, like the things that get the most views, right, that are the shiniest, and it's generally the things that are, I don't know. I just don't feel like it carries very much value, right? The stock to flow model is already completely ridiculous if you apply it to other asset classes. And second of all, even if you look at Bitcoin, you can imagine a lot of situations with Bitcoin where it would have made completely no sense. Imagine the supply schedule for Bitcoin instead of having every 4 years. Imagine it only like went down by 1% every 4 years. Then there's just not enough incentive to get in early, and then Bitcoin maybe never takes off in the first place. Or imagine it drops by 99% every 4 years. Then people mining later on just have literally no incentive to mine because the people that were mining a week before them at some point maybe were making 100 times more Bitcoin or something. So there's a lot of reasons. And again, like, you know, the general equation for that type of stuff, like, it's just a simple regression, like a linear regression fit. Like with two variables saying an R squared of 0.99. I don't think that it's really that important. And I mean, I think that the stock to flow model, though, if I wanted to say something good about it, I think, you know, one of the nice things about it is it's gotten people interested in crypto that maybe would have never been interested in crypto. So from like a marketing perspective, I think it's done a really good job, right? And I commend the person for making it because I think it gets people to like at least look into Bitcoin, and maybe they wouldn't have, right? I mean, it's in terms of attracting like the general population, it's done a lot better than any of my stuff has done. I mean, you see the anytime anyone mentions stock to flow anywhere, it gets upvoted like crazy, and then you talk about lengthening cycles, and people don't want to hear it because people want to be millionaires next year. So, I mean, in terms of a marketing perspective, I think lengthening cycle, or I think stock to flow has done a really great job. But at the same time, I think that it predicting, you know, a $100,000 or $200,000 Bitcoin, I mean, I think it predicts like $1 million Bitcoin in like 6 years or something, or 7 years. I think it's just absurd, and it's not going to happen. And maybe you can argue, like, maybe if there's a peak in, say, 2023, people will still somewhat think that it looks okay, right? Because it won't be too lagging from the stock to flow model. But I think the subsequent peak after that one will basically completely do away with any interpretation of it remotely being something that's accurate. Yeah, 2025, $1 million by stock to flow. Yeah, and the thing too, right, is the stock to flow model. Like they have like so many different like time frame scenarios, like based on what the window is. So like, and they even did an interview on it, right, where they said like, well, you have 3 different models. So what's going to keep you from taking credit, no matter what price it goes to, right? Because you have a model that shows it going to that price, like. And I mean, at this point, anyways, the stock to flow model was changed to some degree. It excludes time, right? He changed it to exclude time, which is probably smart on his part because it doesn't necessarily prescribe a very specific like point in time to this stuff happening, which I don't think anyone can reasonably predict exactly when it's going to happen, anyways. Like I think to say that it's going to happen in 2021 was a little bit of absurd. So at least by making it so that it doesn't depend on time. Maybe it can appeal to more people even after 2021 when it turns out that the original model is likely not true. I'm not talking about politics. Someone says if Corona round 2 happens, do you suppose there'll be another March crash? I mean, I don't know what world you've been living on, but in terms of where I've been living, June and July was round 2 for a lot of places. Do you think Bitcoin will always be the top market cap cryptocurrency? Thoughts on another coin? I think that during this cycle, it will likely stay at the top. If it does move down to number 2, I think it would only be very temporary. Like maybe Ethereum would flip it, but even if it did flip it, I think it would be very short-lived. Do you follow the DXY daily with respect to? I do follow it. I do have a couple videos on the dollar index. So yeah, like when the U.S. dollar is dropping, it tends to be good for Bitcoin. When the dollar index is rising, it tends to be bad for Bitcoin. Someone said, what are your top 3 coins? Probably Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Link. According to CZ of Binance, Bitcoin will 100% not be the leader. I mean, I can still assure you that just because he runs an exchange doesn't mean he knows exactly what the prices are going to do in the future. I mean, yeah, if you're talking about 100 years from now, like none of us know. I mean, the market, it could be completely different by that point. Cryptocurrencies could be worthless in 100 years, right? I think it's more prudent to just focus on, like, say, this market cycle, right? Focus on this market cycle and focus on how you can make money during this market cycle is the main idea. Thanks for following the channel, Kathy, and for the compliment. You know, the thing about, I see the XRP shills in the chat. The thing about it, right, is you can shill it all you want, but the only thing I have to do is pull up the XRP Bitcoin chart and show you that, like, you know, congratulations if you see it move up 20% in the short term. It doesn't change the fact that it's down 90% against Bitcoin since the peak in 2018. And most coins are not still down 90% against Bitcoin. That are in the, you know, that are I feel like worth holding in the top 10 or 20. So, you know, with XRP, again, I think there's a time to buy it and there's a time to hold it and there's a time not to hold it. And like 99% of the time is better not to hold it, in my opinion, right? 99. I mean, just look at the spikes, right? I mean, like this spike only lasted like 2 months, and then this one here only lasted like 1 month, and then for the rest of the time, it's mainly just going down. So this is my response to people who just hold XRP for 3 years. Like, congratulations, you're down 90% against Bitcoin. Someone says, what about the 50-page article on Link that was like, yeah, I mean, I saw that too. These things are going to happen. I think it's just business as usual, right? Any coin going up 10, 20x systematically over years and not really retracing a whole lot is going to garnish people who are trying to put out things like that with ulterior motives. So business as usual, right? I mean, even with Bitcoin, people always talk about the news, and my argument with the news with Bitcoin is that the news is essentially meaningless, because during a bull market, everyone just ignores the bad news, and during a bear market, everyone just ignores the good news. So that's my take on it, right? You say, if it's a bear market and you see a news article that says, oh, such and such exchange just got raided in some country, oh, the market's going to sell off by like 30%. You say the same thing when Bitcoin's going up 100% a day, and like literally no one cares. Yeah, we already talked about DOT a little. I mean, buying it is really risky, as I've said. I mean, if you want to buy it, it's... I do own some, of course, but if you want to buy it, as I've said many times, it's really risky. I have no idea where it's going to go. I mean, it could go to $1, it could go to $10. I really don't know. I own some, right, but I don't know where it's going to go. There's not enough data on it to have any idea. Any favorite books lately? I tend to just read nonfiction. Like Physics of the Future is a good one by Michio Kaku. Techo, no financial advice here, man. Can we get some more likes? Let's get to 400. And please, if you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe so that you can see future videos and follow the channel as we go through the next market cycle. Do you think humanity will ever achieve net positive fusion energy generation? Probably eventually, right? I mean, there's you look at there have been some places, right, where they were able to sustain it for a little bit of time. Where the energy output was, but even then, like it's not really sustainable, and the cost for the new materials is really high. So I don't know. I mean, the joke, right, is that it's always 20 years away. Like the sustainable nuclear fusion, in terms of like keeping it going, is 20 years away, and that's been that way since the 1950s. If you're looking for the lifetime option chain, just send me an email. People keep asking about Elon Musk and Neuralink, and yeah, I mean, I do own Tesla. I sold a lot of Tesla, not too long ago, but I'm letting the rest of it ride for right now. Yeah, I would trade the ADA ETH ratio if ADA drops more in comparison to Ethereum. I would. Again, with Link too, remember that it is up significantly. So even with Link, even though it's like my number 3, like I have not bought Link since it was like less than $2. So you're buying it at 17, huge risk involved. You know, good journey ahead, but I mean, I really don't know if it's a good decision in the short term. It might be, right? But it's anyone's guess. Chang, just go to the contact page on the website or just send me a message in Telegram. Someone says, have you ever thought about discussing real estate? We actually, we discussed real estate, right, earlier in this live stream. Someone says, do you use the Brave browser? I mean, I have it right here, right? So it's a good chance to talk about the premium list again, intothecryptoverse.com. Check it out if you haven't. I know you guys don't like me talking about it. But again, I don't have any paid promotions on the channel, and I don't make you watch any ads before watching my videos, so at least humor me, intothecryptoverse.com. You get access to a whole lot of stuff, a weekly report, a weekly premium video, a alerts channel on Telegram, a risk dashboard, a private chat room, a dynamic DCA dashboard, and prices are going to be going up on September 28th significantly. So if you want to get grandfathered in at the lower price, I would encourage you to sign up sooner rather than later, and you can also pay with crypto if you want a 6 to 12 month subscription. But you can see this is the Brave browser, and I do use Brave. But at the same time, if the reason you asked me that was because you want to tip me, please do not tip me. If you want to tip me, don't do it. Just invest your money. One, yeah, you can do month to month with fiat, or you can pay for like 12 months with crypto, or you can do a lifetime option. I'm going to be offering a lifetime option in a few months. If you want to do it sooner, just message me. I don't really want to talk about the best crypto sites to buy because I don't want to come off like it's shilling any specific exchange or anything. Someone says, how should a beginner be analyzing charts? I mean, I would just pull up a crypto chart and maybe just try to identify like when certain things happened with various coins based on what Bitcoin was doing at the time. Someone says a PS5 or an Xbox. Unfortunately, I played video games as a kid, but I really do just consider them to be a complete and utter waste of time now. If I had to play, I don't really play any video games, but I do play. I really like playing chess. So if any of you guys are good at chess, I do play a lot of chess, which of course will just continue to build the nerd narrative. But if any of you guys are good, let me know and we can play. Oh, so blind tall is 1900 rated. Okay, so you're higher rated than me. I think I'm like I've only played in a few like actual chess tournaments, but I think my rating is probably around 1700, maybe 1750. Someone says they could beat me at chess. I'm sure you can. I'm not that good at it. I'm decent, right? I think I'm better than average, but I'm not that good. I'm like 1750 ELO. Upper hand says, please value Bitcoin and gold, not USD. I've done videos on Bitcoin versus gold. But you know the funny thing, right? If you value it against gold, or whether you value it against gold or USD, over the macro scale, quantitatively they're different, but qualitatively they're the same. Because if something goes up like Bitcoin, where it goes up 1,000,000% in 10 years, it doesn't matter if you're valuing it against Bitcoin, or it doesn't matter if you're valuing it against fiat like USD, or if you're valuing against gold. It's just a rounding error. It's nothing more than a rounding error over the macro scale. What other questions do we have? Let's see how the coins are doing. I haven't looked at them. Link's back below 17. Again, buying at this level will be too risky for me, anyways. But you never know. Maybe it'll continue on its journey upwards. Yeah, XRP is still down 90% against Bitcoin. Monero, it's actually doing okay, right? I mean, it was at $93, $94 the other day. Still at around $93, so it didn't really take too big of a hit when Bitcoin fell. If I beat you at chess, will I get a lifetime free subscription of your premium content? I don't think so, man, because you could be really good at chess. Ethereum Bitcoin ratio is still around 0.0348, 0.035. Sanford said, do you look into fundamentals at all? We do. I have done some fundamental stuff. I've looked at some on-chain stuff. If you're talking about like actual fundamentals of the project, I mean, I do, but I don't talk about it on the channel that much. Occasionally I will. Like, I think I have spoken about some of it related to like Ethereum and Cardano and Link a little bit, but it's not much. I mean, there's certainly other YouTube channels out there that would do a much better job, or they do a much better job of talking about the fundamentals than I do on this channel. It's just not the focus on the channel. The focus on this channel is just the quantitative part, not the fundamental part for the most part. We already looked at DOT. Someone said, what was your research on for your PhD? My research was on molecular dynamics simulations of radiation damage in ceramics using molecular dynamics and in situ transmission electron microscopy that I deposited with thin films. Juan says, with coins with insufficient data history, does that mean you're basically flying blind? I mean, yeah, it does, right? But I mean, it would be similar, akin to buying Ethereum in 2015. Like, you're flying blind. Doesn't mean that good things can't happen. It just means you're taking on a risk, and you recognize that it's a huge risk, but you're willing to take it on anyways. I can't tell you an exact limit order price to set, James. Some of those, have you watched Chernobyl? Excellent show. I have heard good things about it, but I've also, from what I've heard too, there's a lot of like things that are like don't make a lot of sense from like a physics perspective. Like things are just over embellished or whatnot. But I have heard that it was a good show. Would you want 1 Bitcoin or 30 Ethereum? I would just diversify. I don't really like the all-in stuff. In terms of like if I had to choose, right? If I had to choose between 1 Bitcoin or 30 ETH, I would say, diversify, right? Because you don't have to choose, right? The idea that you have to go all in is misguided. I mean, you could always do like, portion Bitcoin, portion Ethereum, because that improves your risk-adjusted returns because you have volatility. They're not necessarily correlated that much. There is a correlation there, right? But it's better than just having one asset, is my point. Andrew says, how sure are you the bull run won't start next year? I don't really understand. I mean, the bull run could have already started. It could be a multi-year bull run. So I'm not really understand the question. Will you be selling Bitcoin on the way up? If so, what's your first target? That's all for the premium list. We have the risk metric for that. Intothecryptoverse.com if you want to check it out. Yeah, let's get the likes up. Can we get to 500? I've only gotten to 1,000 likes during a live stream one time. And I think I've only gotten to like 500 likes that same live stream. This might be the second video ever on a live stream that gets to 500 likes. I'm not sure if that's true. Maybe there's a couple more, but yeah, if we could get to 500 likes, that'd be great. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content. Turn on the notifications. I hate saying that stuff, but it seems to help. Have you considered calling yourself Satoshi Nakamoto? But I'm not, believe me. But I did think it was a key missed opportunity because if you think about it, like my name is, my initials are BC, and I have a twin brother, and his middle initial is T. If my middle initial had been T, my initials would have been BTC. I think we'll write that off. We'll say that's a key missed opportunity by my parents and move on. You guys don't need to call me Dr. Ben. What's a PhD among friends, right? How do you expect a significant market downturn crash to affect your positions? I mean, if it were to crash, if we go below the 20-week on the weekly time frame, I would probably convert most, not all of it, but most of my Ethereum and almost all of my altcoins either into Bitcoin or stablecoins. Thanks, Gladiator, for the compliment. Cryptos Investor says, do you see Ethereum Bitcoin ratio to go down where it was in May? I mean, are you talking about all the way down here, or are you talking about just on this trend line? So basically, like down here. Like, what are you talking about? Are you talking about all the way back down to a valuation of 0.02, or are you talking about down to the trend line where it would be like 0.03? Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with taxes, right, is something you need to consider, but it depends on, it depends on where you live, right? And there's no like one size fits all tax discussion because it depends on if you're holding it short term or long term. Like for instance, all the Link I'm holding is technically long term because it's been more than a year. It also depends on your tax bracket, what country you live in. So it's really hard to talk about taxes in a meaningful way, because people that watch my channel are from all over the world. I think fib circle analysis is just absurd. Hunter, so someone asking me about that. Chris is. I think I already answered your question, Chris. Are you Chris Paul? Hey, I know it's spelled differently, but did you guys know that I played in a basketball game with Chris Paul when I was in high school? Because he went to it was like a charity event thing, and it ended up raining, and so like no one came. So then it was just like a bunch of guys and Chris Paul. Oh, the question was, are you planning on trading the Ethereum ADA ratio if ADA drops more in comparison to Ethereum? Yes, I would. Yeah, and if you are taking profits, remember to save some for taxes, as Lost and Faded Guitarist says. Because what you don't want to happen, right, is like what happened in 2017, 2018. A lot of people sold Bitcoin in 2017, then FOMO'd into altcoins in 2018, and then they didn't have enough money to pay their taxes for 2017 when all the money they made from Bitcoin crashed in 2018. So they owed taxes on the 2017 gains, but then they lost all the money in 2018. But they couldn't claim that until the 2018 tax return. So what happened? They couldn't pay their taxes because they went up like 100x on Bitcoin, sold it to altcoins, and then watched all their money disappear. I cannot dunk. We do have some videos on the channel that talk about hash rate, but not too often. Maybe like one video every 2 or 3 months. If you go back and look at my channel and just search for like hash rate or something, you'll find the videos. What's your take on BSV? I wouldn't touch it. Someone says, yeah, man, tax doesn't care if you lose it all in a second trade. They want the taxes from the first trade. Well, you can offset some taxes, right, from like gains and losses. But the thing is like people made the money in 2017 and then lost it in 2018. So this is what you want to avoid, right? Because if you're making the money in one calendar year and then losing it in the next, you still owe the taxes on the prior calendar year. Someone says, is it possible to go down to 0.021 on the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio? I mean, anything's possible, right? I doubt we would go there anytime soon. If we were to go there, it would probably correspond to Bitcoin breaking the 20-week well before Ethereum would get to that point anyways. So I would actually probably already be mostly out of Ethereum well before something like that were to happen anyways. I do stake my coins. Chris Collins is asking if I look at staking options. I do stake some coins. I use some DeFi platforms. I have looked at Maker a few times, actually. I haven't talked about it on the channel, but I have looked at it. It's decent. So when you take profits, do you put a tax estimate instantly aside in a separate account? I mean, you could do that if thinking about it like compartmentally is fine. I don't. It's not really a huge concern. Like I can cover it one way or another, but it probably would be prudent for most people to just put the money instantly aside and set it aside for taxes so that you don't get burned and then you can't pay it. Someone says, could you please check ADA? We already did talk about ADA a decent amount, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, as we said, like maybe this is where it's going to turn around, but I don't know. You can see it bounce there before going through. Pass through and then maybe bounce there again, and it's going to continue on up, and then we'll have the nice symmetry, right? And then our key technical analysis that none of you guys could dispute, right, is this, right? If it were to do something like that, you guys see this, right? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. then back up. Wouldn't that be nice? And then you have the person. Is that not the best technical analysis you've ever seen? Let's see what Link's doing. Still below 17 again. Guys, I mean, with regards to Fibonacci, I mean, like, you can use it if you want. I just think that people see things because they want to see them. I think that most traditional TA is complete and utter garbage, right? Because a lot of times you might say, oh, well, if it hits this level, then it's going to bounce off that level, and you give enough levels, it's going to bounce off something to a rounding error, right? And you can look back and say, oh, this was a head and shoulders, or an inverted head and shoulders, or whatever you want to say, and for every time you find an instance where it works out, I can probably find 10 where it doesn't work out. I think the main things to note that are when things go up, they're more likely to continue going up, more so than things that are not going up, and that looking at data science trends over the macro scale is better than looking at some of these traditional technical indicators. Now, I'm sure I just offended a lot of you, but this is my opinion, and it's my channel, and I reserve the right to have my opinion on my channel. So. So yeah, someone said still better than fib circles. Yeah, I would probably say that looking at general fibs are better than looking at the fib circles. Like I feel like the circles are just completely ridiculous, right? You draw enough of those fib circles, and they're gonna line up with something, right? I mean, like you draw 1,000 of them, and of course you can make it look like it works. Someone says, does your TA style have a particular name? Yes, it's called data science. Someone says what goes up must come down. Target on link reaccumulation. $10 seems right. I mean, it might be, man. I don't know. I think that short-term price movements are more of a random walk, right? Geometric bounding in motion, something you can realistically predict. If it does drop, I'll probably buy. If it continues to go up, I'll continue selling, but I'll always hold some for the duration of the market cycle. Another questions. Can we get to 500 likes? We need 23 more. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Yeah, man, if the premium list is not your thing, then don't sign up for it. Yeah, it's fine. Oh, look at that. We made it to 500. Someone said, what cars do you like? I mean, like, there's a difference between, like, what I like and what's practical. Like, I have 2 kids with a third on the way. So, like, what's practical, right, is, like a larger vehicle. That's just the nature of the game, right? It's just what it is, right? I wouldn't really describe myself as like a car guy, like someone who who has to drive around like a lot of flashy cars, right? I think I'd rather just have the money invested for the most part, of course. With that said, you know, I could see myself, you know, buying a Tesla or something at some point. We'll see. I just at the present time, like, you know, it's more so it's not necessarily what I want. It's more like what's more pragmatic to have, I guess. And I always have to think about opportunity cost, right? If I'm going to go out and spend like $100,000 on like a Range, you know, like a Range Rover or you know, or like a I mean, of course, you guys want to talk about Lambos, whatever it is. I mean, there's an opportunity cost, of course, of doing that. So. You know what I really want them to come out with? Like, I want them to come out with like a Tesla, but where it's like a three row Tesla. I probably would buy that, actually. But I don't know if that's coming out anytime soon. Yeah, like a Tesla SUV, well, not an SUV because they do have the SUV, right? But like one that actually has like a lot of room and stuff. Yeah, I saw Rivian. Yeah, I saw that there are other companies that are coming out with that stuff, but I kind of like the idea of getting a Tesla at some point. Mainly because I mean I made a lot of money with Tesla the last couple years, so. What portion of your portfolio is outside of Bella? Bella's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, and ADA. I mean, it changes, you know, because the prices are always moving, so it's not like an exact percentage. I mean, it fluctuates. Do we have any last questions? I do not trade every day. No, I do not bite. I'm more of a momentum shift, longer term swing trader, not a day trader. Someone says, are you staking DOT? Yes, I am. I don't trade micro caps. That was I mean, I do trade them. I'm not going to talk about them here, though. That's what I should say. Doesn't matter how much capital I started out with. It's all about percentages and just moving up. You become the whale, right? I mean, people always say, like, well, if I just had, you know, an extra 10K or an extra 100K, then I'd be, well, I mean, you just carry out the same discipline at 10K as you would at 100K, as you would at $1 million, as you would at 10 million, right? It's just, you just work your way up the ladder. Someone says, where do you talk about micro caps? So I don't really talk about micro caps. Remember there is the Telegram channel that you can talk about some of the larger coins. I did make a micro cap channel. I don't really participate in it, but if you have that itch that you need to scratch, and you're not going to be able to scratch it in my channel because I won't let you, or in the main channel. But if you want to talk about micro caps, there's another Telegram channel I just put in the chat that you can join. And you can talk about like micro caps, and basically the chat channel is called, instead of Into the Cryptoverse, that one's called Into the Cryptocosm. So I thought some people would appreciate that. Someone says, do you think it's worth trying to stake Ethereum when the time comes? Probably, but I mean, at the same time, if Ethereum's up to if it goes up to like 9K, I mean, it's not going to stop me from selling it so that I can earn some interest rate. The risk metric isn't gonna for Tesla. I mean, it would still be at 1, right? It's not about the absolute price. It's about how it got there. I mean, you just change the denomination and do a stock split. He's not talking about the staking, and he's talking about, you know, the 32 ETH for proof of stake. He's not talking about like lending it to. He's talking about like securing the network. I don't talk about options on the channel. You're asking the same question, man. PS5 or Xbox? I told you I don't play either. I play chess sometimes. Maybe I'll do a chess live stream so you can see how nerdy I am. But I don't own a PS5 or an Xbox. I just think it'd be a waste of time, to be completely honest. I don't really watch much of crypto YouTube anymore. I mean, I watched it back years ago, but I really don't watch much of anyone else anymore. Do you think after this market cycle we will have to wait 2 more cycles? I don't really know what you mean by 2 more cycles. If there's 2 more cycles, then one of the cycles would presumably take us up to a new high. I just think that the next cycle will take like 8 or 9 years after the current one. So the next cycle peak is 2023, I think, and then the next one would be like 2031 or 2032. There's some ways you can make money in after the next peak during a bear market. There's still times when it would probably recover some. It's getting late here. Yeah, I think the next cycle will take two halvings. Yeah, I do. Not this one. Maybe this one. There's a chance that this one could take 2 halvings and it could be in 2024. But if not this one, then I think definitely the next one will take 2 halvings. The first, at least 2 halvings, right? At what point did the cycle stop? Probably decade. I mean, I feel like it's probably going to be like a few decades, and then it'll just kind of bleed into every other, and then it won't make sense to really think of it in terms of cycles anymore, right? I mean, if a cycle is theoretically like 20 years, then like it really doesn't become. I mean, it's just more or less just volatility and trends upward or downward. Yes, I think the stock to flow model is flawed. I already talked about it earlier. I'm not going to go into that soapbox again. remember to check out the premium list again. I'm probably going to sign off soon into thecryptoverse.com. If you guys want access, prices are going to go up September 28th. So if you want to get grandfathered in, check it out before that. How do you balance the chart data with the project tech upgrades, hype, etc.? You know, the thing is, Rwanda, is that at the end of the day, as maybe as ignorant as it sounds, you know, most people just don't care about the tech and the upgrades. Like, most people don't care what the latest tech upgrade is. Like, they just don't. They just want to make money. So it's more so just looking at the data, I think, than, I mean, of course there's a place for the tech, right? If something literally has no use case, and like, why would you buy it? But at the end of the day, most people just really don't care about that stuff. I mean, it's the truth, right? It's the truth. And I know that for a fact, right? I mean, I know it because the more complicated the models I show on my channel, the less people are interested, right? What do people want to hear? Most people, all they want to hear is that Bitcoin is just going to go up. That's all they want to hear. And if anything other than that, you're basically just noise in a really noisy room, in a busy room. What was it like working at NASA? I mean, it was pretty cool. I worked at NASA when I was an undergrad as an intern in their undergraduate student research program at NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I developed the lunar rover component of a distributed space simulation for those who care. Someone says, would you live in space? You know, I would have when I was single and didn't have kids, but I wouldn't anymore because we talk about risk, right? I wouldn't want to risk my kids growing up without a dad or something if something were to go wrong in space. I know I wouldn't. What's your degree? My undergrad is in math and my PhD is in nuclear engineering. Do you do YouTube full time now? No, I do not. I do have a day job. I got the PhD for a reason, not just so I could talk on YouTube. I missed the beginning in a couple words. Where do you think Bitcoin goes from here? Either up, down, or sideways. But probably sideways for the most part, plus or minus a few $100 for the next week, if I had to guess, right? I mean, at the end of the day, do I really know? I don't have a crystal ball, but I think that it's more likely in the next week or so, it's more likely to stay between 11 to 12K than it would be to go below 11 or much above 12. Is my prediction. I feel like it's more likely to just stay in this window than to break up to say 14K or to break down to 10K. So hopefully it does. We'll see though. I don't really do short-term trades that much. I did a little bit for a little while, and they actually were all successful. If you go back and look at those trades, they were all successful. But I generally want to stay away from saying like, okay, I'm going to do this exact short-term trade because short-term trading is more so gambling, I think, and I'd rather people look at it from a different perspective. Any good low cap coins? Yeah, I'm sure there's some. We're not talking about them here though. How long of trades do you do? It just depends on the risk, right? I mean, if something goes parabolic, then it's shorter. If nothing's going parabolic, it's longer. Whew. I already went over how I got into Bitcoin. It was back in 2011. Do we have any more questions? Maybe I will do a chess live stream at some point. I've thought about it. I don't really think anyone would want to watch it because I'm not very good, but maybe it could be fun. Yeah, if you're wondering about the premium list, you can always check it out into thecryptoverse.com. You can always ask questions on the Telegram channel. How many times do you have to do updates? The updates are usually daily, and then you get the weekly video and the weekly report. Where's the merch? Dealing with merchandise sounds like a nightmare. Let's not worry about merchandise. Yeah, I do play on Lichess, Jimmy. If you want to play, we can. My online rating, I'm not very good. Let me see. Here it is. Lichess. I'm not very good though. You can see my username into the Cryptoverse. I do invest in real estate. Well, not right now. I'm going to. I don't currently have any though. I did sell some Chainlink, but not at $20. I sold it at $18.50. As I said, I'm not very good at chess. $18.38 on Lichess. Yeah, we do follow precious metals on the channel. We have a precious metal playlist. My wife is not into crypto now. The premium list does not have a ton of stuff on stocks. We have the S&P 500 risk level, but that's about it. Again, I'm not very good at chess, so. Please take. Because then I'd have that. Probably not going to do it though. No. Aren't I just winning now? He has to take, right? Because otherwise, like queen, and he takes later. He's gonna take. Now I take this pawn too. Isn't this a draw? draw, I think, technically. Maybe not. Well, I win. He ran out of time. I thought it was a draw, though. Maybe if I have an extra pawn, it's not, because if... Okay, never mind. Yeah, it's because I had an extra pawn. Because normally, if the bishop does not match that color, if this pawn isn't there, then he can hide over here. And then if I move up... How does this work? I don't remember. I think a lot of times it's a draw, but here I guess that works. Let's play 1 minute. Probably gonna lose this one. Ah, that was a mouse slip. I didn't mean to move there. I meant to move it here, not there. That's unfortunate. Yeah, I'm losing this one. Hey, we tied. I can't believe I'm literally playing chess and 400 people are still watching. Don't you guys have something better to do? Triple. And I get the knight. Oh, I don't get the knight. Oh, that's unfortunate. GG. Yeah, because he has to go here, right? He has to go here. I take the queen. He takes back. Check. He has to go back here. Or no, he would have to go back here. And then check. Back here. Checkmate. Let me show you. In case you're not sure what I mean. So basically, he has to go here. I take. If he has to take, right? Otherwise, it's just mate immediately because I just go there and it's checkmate. So it's a spite check, right? So then make me take him. So then he takes, but then I go check. He comes back here. I go check, back here, checkmate. It was unavoidable. He was in checkmate. So it didn't matter that he ran out of time. He could not avoid being checkmated. All right. I think that'll wrap it up. Saw someone say, "What's if you pawns among friends?" All right. Let's check back. Let's check back to the important stuff. What's crypto doing? Hey, Link's back above 17. ADA 11.6, 1100 sats. Hey, it's back above 1,000, or sorry, not sats, USD. It's back above 1,000 sats, I mean. Or yeah, 1,005. Ether Bitcoin still where it was. XRP still down 90% against Bitcoin. Polkadot. I love looking at the weekly Polkadot candles. Gladiator says I take back my challenge. Yeah, I mean this was what we called the best technical analysis, right? I don't think it looks like a chicken, but actually, someone says, "Who says GG out loud?" I only got that because I do watch this other chess streamer sometimes. His name's Hikaru Nakamura. He's like he's one of the top ones in the United States, like number 3 or 4, and he like streams. He always says that, so I think I just picked it up from him. All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up there. Again, if you guys like the content, please check out the premium list. Remember, you can find it into thecryptoverse.com. Prices are going to go up soon, so if you want to get grandfathered in, check it out before that. If you don't care, you can enjoy the free content. Please subscribe to the channel at the very least. Give the video a thumbs up. We also do have the Telegram channel, which I would encourage you guys to check out if you want to ask questions. So check that out. And we'll wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We went for almost 3 hours, actually. We're currently at 2 hours and 59 minutes. So maybe I'll just ramble on for another 30 seconds to make it to 3 hours. I don't think I've done a 3-hour stream before. But it is pretty late here. So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We'll follow crypto in the next week, or obviously throughout the market cycle. We'll see if Bitcoin remains range bound here for the next week. It could get boring, right? If it just kind of repeats what it did during the last accumulation range, but we'll see if it stays that way. All right, everyone, we'll wrap it up. Price of Bitcoin's at 11.6. We'll see you guys next time.